Okay, well, thank you all so much for joining us. My name is Rachel Dunham, and I'm the Community Engagement Coordinator with the Xerces Society. And today we have a very exciting webinar all about Bee City USA. And today's presentation will be given by Molly Martin, who is the Bee City USA Coordinator at the Xerces Society. And I will hand it over to Molly.
Hi, everyone, and thank you, Rachel, for that introduction. And thank you to everyone else for joining me for an hour of learning about Xerces Bee City USA and Bee Campus USA initiatives. Named for the now extinct Xerces blue butterfly, Xerces has been an organization since 1971 and has worked to protect wildlife through the conservation of invertebrates and their habitat. I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Molly Martin, and I'm the Bee City USA Coordinator. And I first became interested in pollinators in the same way that a lot of people do, and that's through honeybees. When I was a kid, my parents kept honeybees, and my bedroom was on the ground floor of our suburban home, and we had bee hives that were placed just outside my window. So I grew up watching honeybees from my bedroom and helping tend the bees and extract honey. And like many people, I was vaguely aware that other types of bees existed, for example, bumblebees, but the main bee that I knew about was the honeybee. So now jump forward quite a few years until I was a student at Whitman College, which is in rural Washington state, and I took a course on pollinator ecology. And in the course, we learned about all types of pollinators, including the thousands of species that are native to North America, that I knew very little about. And then we also worked our way through some of the most prominent research on pollinators. And through college and afterwards, I held a variety of jobs, both in experiential and outdoor education, and also in ecology research. But I kept coming back to my interest in pollinators and to the role that they play in our ecosystems and also in our lives. And what interested me most about pollinators was that I felt there were still a lot of unanswered questions. And I feel like if you make a graph where you have one axis is how important an animal is to the continued functioning of our natural and our human systems, and then if the other axis is how much we know about the animal, I think native bees are in the corner of critical to the world as we know it, and actually relatively poorly understood. And my interest in pollinators, and specifically in native bees, led me to graduate school, where I studied what aspects of plant pollinator networks best predict their resilience to disturbance, and then eventually to my position as the Bee City USA Coordinator at Xerces. And I love that this job integrates both ecological research and principles, but also engaging people and communities in how they can help preserve and protect pollinators. So hopefully you're here today to learn about pollinators and also about what Xerces Bee City USA and Bee Campus USA initiatives are doing to help them. So I'm going to start with a quick outline of where we're going today. In this presentation, I'll start by sharing the mission of Bee City USA and giving an overview of what types of communities can become affiliates of Bee City USA and of Bee Campus USA. I'll then share some general information about pollinators, their declines, and what we can all do to help support these native pollinators. Next, I'll give you some background about how and why Bee City USA was founded, and I'll share some information about our current affiliates. We'll then go over the commitments involved in becoming an affiliate of either Bee City USA or Bee Campus USA, and the benefits of joining these initiatives. And then we'll end with a quick overview of the application process. And if I don't talk for too long, we'll have time for some questions at the end. I'm sure we'll make some time for that. And before we go on, I know we likely have a very diverse audience here today, so I apologize if I cover material you already know or if you feel like I move too quickly through my overview of pollinators, their declines, and what we can do to support them. So if you leave this presentation interested in learning more about pollinators in general, I encourage you to check out other Xerces webinars that have been recorded and available on our YouTube channel. And we have a whole variety of really interesting, well-done webinars on a variety of topics that you might enjoy. The mission of Bee City USA is to galvanize communities to sustain native pollinators, responsible for 1 in 3 bites we eat and the reproduction of over 85% of the world's flowering plants by increasing the abundance of native plants, providing nest sites, and reducing the use of pesticides. So while we call the main initiative Bee City USA, there are actually 2 sister initiatives that are nested within it. So we have Bee City USA and Bee Campus USA. Any incorporated city, town, or village is welcome to apply to become an affiliate of Bee City USA. And we also work with counties if most of the work is happening in the county rather than in an incorporated municipality within that county. And we also work with other communities that function like incorporated municipalities. So an example of that would be a military base, and we do have one military base that's an affiliate. And then college and university campuses can apply to become affiliates of Bee Campus USA. And at this point, we don't work with any other types of schools like elementary, middle, or high schools, or with businesses. Groups that want to make a commitment to helping pollinators but aren't able to become an affiliate of Bee City or Bee Campus might be interested in taking Xerces' Bring Back the Pollinators pledge. And by taking this pledge, you commit to grow pollinator-friendly flowers, provide nest sites and host plants, avoid pesticide use, and spread the word about pollinators. So this is a great option to take many of the steps that are also involved in Bee City and Bee Campus, but without going through all the process of becoming one of our affiliates. This can also be a great first step to take before applying to become an affiliate. So if this intrigues you, you can learn more about Bring Back the Pollinators pledge and how you can become involved on the Xerces website. Just Google Xerces Bring Back the Pollinators. So first we're going to talk about pollinators in general. And this may seem obvious, but when we talk about pollinators, we're referring to a variety of groups of species. So essentially any animal that intentionally or inadvertently transfers pollen between flowers. And bees are the most effective pollinators because they actively collect pollen, they store it on their bodies, and then they transfer it between flowers as they visit different flowers. And bees also specialize on certain types of flowers, so they're much more likely to transfer pollen between flowers of the same species. And other animals that pollinate flowers include butterflies, moths, beetles, and flies. And hummingbirds, bats, and even some rodents can also contribute to pollination. So when I first learned about bees, I was really shocked to learn just how many different species there are. North America alone is home to around 3,600 species of native bees, and those belong to 7 distinct families. And they really vary in terms of their appearance, but also their strategies for nesting, eating, and interacting with others of their species. So here from left to right, starting in the top left, we have a European honeybee in the family Apidae. Then to the right of that, a leafcutter bee in the family Megachilidae, and you can see that it has pollen packed into those hairs on the bottom of its abdomen. Next, there's a mining bee in the family Andrinidae, a bee in the family Callididae. Then on the bottom left, a bumblebee, which you'll probably recognize, that's in the family Apidae as well. Next to it is a beautiful green metallic bee, which is the family Halictidae, and this is commonly referred to as a sweat bee. Then next to that is one of my favorites. This is a longhorned bee from the family Apidae. and I just love those long antennae. And then finally, bottom right is a blue orchard mason bee in the family Megachilidae. And two families are missing from these pictures. One is Meletidae, which is a very small family of solitary ground nesting bees. And then the other one is Stenotrididae, which is the smallest family of bee and is only found in Australia. So while we're talking about numbers, about 25 to 30% of bees are considered specialists. So that means that they'll only collect pollen from certain types of plants, as opposed to a generalist, which collects pollen from a much wider variety of plants. And similarly, most butterflies and moths have strict requirements for specific host plants for their larvae to feed on. So of these 8 pictures, there's one that's different from the rest in a notable way, and that's because it's not native to North America. And that's the European honeybee up here on the top left, which is, the species is Apis mellifera. And as its common name suggests, the European honeybee is not native to the US. It was brought to North America from Europe in the 1600s. And the thing that makes honeybees so well known and often loved is that they're really integral to our food system. And they're also a social species, which means that we can keep hives of domestic bees. And it also doesn't hurt that they produce these products that we use, including honey and beeswax. Another interesting thing about honeybees is that they'll feed on a wide variety of native and non-native species. So they're what we'd refer to as generalists, while many native pollinators are more dependent on the native plant species that they evolved alongside. And honeybees are a really neat species that help support our agricultural system, and they also provide a great way for us to interact with bees close up. But it's important to understand that there is a difference between beekeeping and bee conservation. And the comparison that helped me understand this distinction involves birds. So I really like chickens, and I understand that humans rely on many of the products they create, so meat and eggs. And I also have friends with chickens in their backyard. But I also don't think that by having chickens, you're helping to conserve native birds. And keeping honeybees in an effort to conserve our declining native bee populations is kind of the equivalent of keeping chickens in hopes of conserving native birds. So that being said, Bee City and Bee Campus neither encourages nor discourages beekeeping. But we want to make sure that our affiliates know that there is a difference, and that while taking the steps to help native pollinators will also help honeybees, the focus of these initiatives is really on conserving those native pollinator species. And that being said, many of our affiliates are beekeepers, and they became interested in this topic because of honeybees, and that's great. And we don't discourage that. All right, so now we're going to move back to talking about native bees, and you may be wondering why I keep showing you pictures of things that have nothing to do with bees, first chickens and now elephants. So many of you have probably heard of the term charismatic megafauna, and it essentially means large, majestic animals that get most of the attention. So think wolves, grizzly bears, whales, and elephants. So essentially everything a bee isn't. So here's a picture with about the same scale as that last one with the elephants. And I'm not sure what emotions the last photo evoked for you, but it probably at least had something to do with elephants. So now look at this picture. What comes to mind? Probably not bees. Although, since the topic of this presentation is bees, you may be thinking about bees, but imagine if a friend just showed you this picture on a random Thursday morning. I'm guessing you wouldn't be thinking about bees. And the issue is scale. Bees are really intriguing creatures when you look at them up close, but we rarely do. And for most of us, we need to feel connected to something to want to protect it, and it helps to know what something really looks like to feel connected to it. So here's a close-up of that longhorn bee you saw earlier with those really nice long antennae and a dusting of pollen on its thorax. Here's a bumblebee and a tiny solitary bee collecting nectar and pollen from the same thistle flower. Bees can also have nearly hairless, colorful, metallic bodies, unlike our classic bee we think of that's black and white striped and really hairy, like this blue orchard mason bee. Or here's an iridescent green sweat bee. This is a picture that one of my classmates in graduate school, Nevin Cullen, took of a bee that I caught as part of my research. And I actually have a large print of this on my living room wall to remind me what these creatures that I spend my days working to conserve actually look like up close. So I think that bees are quite charismatic, and hopefully I've convinced you of that with just a few photos, but they're certainly not megafauna. But if you imagine that bees were the size of dogs or even the size of elephants, first people would probably be kind of terrified of them. But more importantly, think about the lengths we would go to protect them. It'd be much harder to ignore the ways that human activities have negatively impacted these species over the years. So what bees may lack in size, they make up for in diversity. There are around 20,000 species of bees globally, and as I said earlier, around 3,600 species in the US and Canada. And then I'm using Oregon and Portland as an example because that's where Xerces is based. In Oregon, there are about 600 to 800 species of native bees in the state, 80 to 100 in the city of Portland, and probably 20 to 30 in a single garden. So apart from bees actually being really neat close up and there being a whole lot of species, why should you care about pollinators? Approximately 85% of flowering plants require a pollinator to transfer pollen and allow fertilization of the flower. Pollinators are a keystone species in all ecosystems, almost all ecosystems. They enable the growth of fruit and seed that make up the major part of the diet of many animals. And they're also a staple in the diet of a variety of other species. Pollinators are also responsible for a component of 1 in every 3 mouthfuls of food and drink we consume. And in the US alone, the value of crop pollination has been estimated at between $10 and $27 billion. And then finally, pollination is integral to many of life's joys, including springtime flowers, summer berry picking, pumpkins at Halloween, and pie at Thanksgiving. And I particularly like making fresh salsa with tomatoes from my garden, and that would not be possible without pollinators. So beyond their economic value and the value they bring to our lives, there's also the value inherent in existing, or intrinsic value. So if you think about it, I find it bordering on magical that this planet includes a metallic green flying animal that's about the size of a grain of rice that you can find just sleeping in a flower, and makes it possible for so many of the plants on this planet to bloom and fruit. And I think this planet would have lost something really incredible if these species ceased to exist. As I'm sure you already know, pollinators are in trouble. There are dozens of studies that show pollinators are in decline globally. And worldwide, up to 40% of pollinator species may be at risk of extinction in the coming years. And in North America alone, more than a quarter of bumblebee species are in decline. Unfortunately, it's not just pollinators that are declining. There's evidence of declines in every group of insect that's been studied in many countries. And there are a variety of factors contributing to pollinator declines, including habitat loss, pesticide use, and climate change. And I'm not going to go into depth on these factors today. We could have an entire webinar series focused on pollinator declines. And we actually do have some recorded webinars on our YouTube channel that touch on some of these topics. And we also have a variety of blogs that you can find on Xerces' main website, as well as brochures and fact sheets. So if you're interested in specifically the impacts of pesticides on bees and other invertebrates, I really encourage you to check out some of our recorded webinars on the topic. We have a variety of presentations discussing the risks of pesticides, threats they pose to invertebrates, and also exploring alternatives for controlling pests. So the good news is that there are solutions. We're talking about species that live in our neighborhoods, in our parks, and in our backyards. And these are species that we can conserve through making slight adjustments to activities many of us already do. So for example, choosing what plant species to include in our gardens, whether to spray herbicides or to hand weed, when to rake leaves, or whether to talk with a friend or neighbor about pollinators. And we really need to take steps at all levels to protect pollinators, and urban areas can play a really key role in pollinator conservation. There's been quite a bit of research in recent years about the role of pollinator protection in urban and suburban areas. And most bees spend their lives within a very small area. They only travel a small distance from their nest, often less than a mile and sometimes only a few hundred feet to forage. And this is really unique because it means that a small pocket of habitat can provide essentially everything a bee needs. The most important things we can do to protect pollinators are to increase the availability of native flowering species, provide pollinators with appropriate nesting substrates, find alternatives to harmful pesticides, and educate and spread awareness. And I don't have time today to go in depth on each of these activities, but if you visit Xerces' website, you can find webinars, videos, and other helpful resources to help you learn more about and to implement each of these strategies. And we're also going to have a webinar series this fall focusing on creating pollinator habitat in a variety of regions of the country. So check out Xerces' website to register for the webinar specific to your area. All right, so maybe you have a large yard, potentially even bigger than the one in this picture, to turn into pollinator habitat. And that's wonderful if you do. But many of us have much less outdoor space, if any at all. Maybe you have room for a few pots or a window box, or maybe you don't have any space for plants. But regardless, you can help protect pollinators. If you're not able to plant pollinator-friendly plants, reduce pesticide use, or provide nesting sites at your house, you can either urge your community to take these steps, or you can participate in citizen science or education and outreach. One way to engage your community in pollinator conservation is through encouraging them to become an affiliate of Bee City USA or Bee Campus USA. Bee City was founded in 2012 in Asheville, North Carolina by this exceptional woman, Phyllis Stiles. So after a career in serving communities from West Africa to the Mississippi Delta and working for nonprofit organizations in a variety of fields from natural resource and farmland protection to civic leadership and development, Phyllis became passionate about pollinators. And Phyllis started by encouraging her home of Asheville to take steps to protect pollinators. In 2012, Asheville became the first affiliate of Bee City USA. And then Phyllis worked to develop the program and spread the word. And in 2014, Bee City USA spread coast to coast when Talent, which is a small town in Southern Oregon, became the second Bee City USA affiliate. Then in 2015, Southern Oregon University, which is in Ashland, Oregon, another Southern Oregon town just south of Talent, approached Phyllis about becoming the first Bee Campus affiliate. And because campuses generally have large managed grounds and also a huge number of educational opportunities, this seemed like a great way to expand the program. Phyllis's goal was to merge with a larger pollinator conservation group, and in 2018, Bee City USA became an initiative of the Xerces Society. Over the years, Bee City and Bee Campus have grown substantially. We now have over 100 Bee City affiliates and over 100 Bee Campus affiliates, so over 200 affiliates total in 42 states. And the spread across the country has largely been a result of grassroots communication. We generally don't contact communities and campuses about the program, but we instead let our affiliates spread the word and recruit other communities. And this map is interactive on our website, so if you go to beecityusa.org, you can find this map and you can click on each of the stars and learn more about who the affiliate is and when they became an affiliate. Here's a list of our Bee City affiliates. I don't expect you to have time or be able to read all of these, but this is just to show you that we really have quite a range of affiliates from a variety of different states, but also different sizes. We have some pretty big cities, including Washington, D.C., Seattle, and San Francisco, and then we have some really tiny towns. And there are pros and cons of different sizes of community. In a large city, you have a lot more opportunity in terms of acreage that you can turn into pollinator habitat and also just people you can attract to events. But then also small cities have the advantage of being able to include more people and make it really a community-wide effort. So feel free to go to our website and check out this list and see if you can find affiliates who you identify with and are similar to your community. And here's the list of campus affiliates. This is spread on 2 pages, so this is just some of them. Campus affiliates have longer names on average than city affiliates. And again, there's quite a range. We have community colleges, we have big 4-year research institutions, we have private colleges, and they've each found a way to make this affiliation work on their campus and chosen how to focus their efforts. And again, you can find this full list on our website. And then here's the second page of these affiliates. I'm going to talk about the commitments that city affiliates make first, and then I'll go over the campus commitments. So as I said earlier, the overarching goal of Bee City USA is to bring communities together to protect pollinators by creating and enhancing habitat and also engaging in outreach and education. In order to become an affiliate of Bee City USA, cities make a variety of commitments. And these commitments are laid out in a resolution adopted by the City Council. We'll cover the key commitments in this resolution today, but if you want to read the full resolution, it's available on the Bee City website and you can just download it and read through that. The first commitment is that cities must establish a Bee City USA committee responsible for carrying out the Bee City USA commitments and for integrating Bee City activities into the broader community. And these committees can be nested within a local government group like the Parks and Recreation Department, or they can be part of a local nonprofit organization. For some cities, Bee City is assigned to an existing committee, either within that government entity or within a nonprofit. And for others, a new committee or subcommittee is created. And a little note about committee makeup. The committee should include people who are excited about pollinator conservation and also who can play a role in meeting the program's commitments. And city committees usually include city staff, Parks and Recreation staff, engaged citizens, and local experts. And a city staff member acts as a liaison between the city and the Bee City committee. And they can either serve on the committee or just act as that go-between. And then the committee must also have a chair or co-chairs. And it really varies who takes on leadership of the application process. Sometimes the city government itself decides that they want to become an affiliate, and sometimes it's a community member who approaches the government about this. The second commitment is that Bee City affiliates commit to create and enhance pollinator habitat on public and private land. So this includes planting native pollinator-friendly plants, reducing or eliminating the use of pesticides, and creating natural nesting areas. So here are a few examples of projects undertaken by affiliates to create or enhance habitat. So the photo on the left is a group of volunteers in Carson City, Nevada, and they're weeding and planting seedlings at one of their pollinator gardens. The center photo is of pollinator habitat planted along a bike path in Puyallup, Washington. And then the photo on the right is of volunteers planting native plants in a new pollinator garden on city property just outside of Decatur, Georgia's historic cemetery. Over the first few years of affiliation with Bee City USA, affiliates create an integrated pest management plan. And integrated pest management, which we often refer to as IPM, is a long-term approach to maintaining healthy landscapes and facilities that minimizes risk to people and the environment by focusing on eliminating the cause of pest problems rather than just treating the symptoms. And the integrated pest management plan that affiliates create should outline appropriate uses of pesticides and a plan for using alternatives to pesticides to control pests. The Xerces Society has a variety of resources that can help cities develop an integrated pest management plan, and we're also happy to share examples from other affiliates. So for example, this integrated pest management policy from Ashland, Oregon on the right. Affiliates also commit to create a recommended native plant list. And this list helps the city and the community decide what to plant and also where they can purchase those plants locally. And Xerces has a variety of resources that can help affiliates develop these lists. So on this slide, you can see an example of one of Xerces' regional native plant lists that affiliates can use to help develop their own local lists. Affiliates make city or county policies and plans pollinator conscious, and this can include policies and plans related to planting, habitat maintenance, and pesticide reduction. Affiliates must host pollinator awareness events. This can include adding a pollinator component to existing events or hosting new events. And some affiliates put on celebrations, host pollinator-related film screenings, or have garden tours, while others have a booth at a local farmer's market or visit local schools to share information about pollinators. And we intentionally leave this commitment fairly open-ended so that affiliates can create and choose the type of educational event that best fits with their own goals and interests, rather than having us tell you what type of events you need to do. Affiliates acknowledge their Bee City USA affiliation with signs and with an online presence. And Xerces provides artwork for street signs, and affiliates work with local sign makers to get those signs made. Affiliates also often make their own signs. So for example, this picture on the right is of a sign with information about pollinators that's in a garden in Ashland, Oregon. And this garden is part of Ashland's annual pollinator garden tour. And I really like this picture because this was once the front yard, but then was turned into a pollinator-friendly garden. And Ashland and a few other city affiliates have actually created their own garden certification programs where community members can apply to the local Bee City committee and then have their own garden certified as pollinator-friendly. Cities must annually apply for renewal and report on the previous year's activities. And the annual renewal report is a form that all city and campus affiliates must complete by the end of February each year, once they've been affiliated with Bee City USA for a full calendar year. So for example, if you're certified in 2020, your first renewal wouldn't be due until February 2022, so that you have a full year to complete the commitments before you need to report on any of them. And as part of the renewal, we ask questions about about the commitments, and then we use the responses to create reports that are shared with all affiliates and also with the public. So here's an example just so you can see a quick snapshot of the first few pages from Decatur, Georgia's renewal report from 2019. Affiliates also pay an initial application fee and annual renewal fees scaled on their population size. So these fees help Bee City USA run the program and also provide affiliates with advice and resources. And just a note about fundraising and fees. These fees are often paid by city government or by a local nonprofit, but some committees rely on grants and fundraising to support their activities. And we're happy to pass along information on any grants that we hear about and also to share ideas that we've heard from other affiliates for fundraising, but we aren't directly involved in any fundraising activities. Some of the most successful fundraising I've heard about include either creating and selling a product or working with a local business to donate some portion of the proceeds from a product to the Bee City Committee. So for example, some affiliates have turned their native plant lists into little booklets that they sell to community members. And others have teamed up with businesses. So for example, teaming up with a brewery to donate a portion of the sales of a certain product to support local pollinator conservation. So for a quick review, Bee City USA affiliates commit to create and enhance habitat on public and private land. So that includes creating an integrated pest management plan and also native plant and native plant supplier lists. Make city or county policies and plans pollinator conscious. Host pollinator awareness events. Publicly acknowledge Bee City USA affiliation with signs and an online presence. Annually apply for renewal and report on last year's activities. And then pay an initial application and annual renewal fees. And campuses also make a set of commitments when they become affiliates of Bee Campus. They start by establishing a Bee Campus USA committee. This committee should include faculty, staff, a member of the landscaping or grounds crew, and students. And the committee must include a member of the grounds or landscaping department to facilitate communication between those maintaining the grounds on campus and the Bee Campus committee. And then campus committees also have a chair or co-chairs, and at least one co-chair should be a member of the faculty, staff, or administration. And students are welcomed and encouraged to be a co-chair as well, but we don't let a student serve as the only chair, and that's to maintain a long-standing contact as students move through the school. And it really varies from affiliate to affiliate who leads the effort to become certified. Some Bee Campus efforts are completely student-driven, while others are led by a member of the faculty or staff. Campuses commit to create and enhance pollinator habitat on campus through planting native plants and reducing the use of pesticides. And these pictures are both from the University of Vermont in Burlington, Vermont. The photo on the left is of a new pollinator garden that was developed right outside the School of the Environment and Natural Resources. And then the photo on the right is of students in the Home and Garden Horticulture Lab who are removing weeds and adding more perennial pollinator-friendly plants to the campus landscaping. Like city affiliates, campuses create an integrated pest management plan over the first few years of affiliation. Affiliates also commit to create a recommended native plant list to help the campus community decide what to plant and where they can purchase those plants locally. Campus affiliates offer service learning projects to enhance pollinator habitat. And this can absolutely be integrated into existing service learning, or new service learning opportunities can be developed. The photo on the left here is of students at the College of Southern Maryland participating in a planting day. And the photo on the right is of a student at California State University Northridge who's helping out in the campus's Outdoor Garden Education Center. Campus affiliates also offer courses and continuing education opportunities that incorporate pollinator conservation. So this can be a great opportunity to engage students in researching the pollinators on campus and how those pollinator communities change when more habitat is created. The picture on the left here is of students in a biology lab course using one of their campus's pollinator gardens to monitor pollinators. And then on the right is the director of Maryland's Extension Service leading a planting day. Campuses also display signage about pollinator conservation and maintain an online presence for Bee Campus activities. So like cities, we provide campuses with a custom campus logo and also with a street sign design that they can then work with local sign makers to have printed and use on their website. I really like this example of a sign on the left that shows different pollinators and shares information about them. And I think it's just really visually appealing and is nice because it provides some interesting information about a whole range of pollinators in the area. Campuses also annually apply for renewal and report on the previous year's activities, and that's each February. Here's a snapshot of part of the renewal report from the University of Connecticut. Campus affiliates also pay an initial application fee and annual renewal fees, and those are scaled to student enrollment. So for a quick review, Bee Campus affiliates commit to create and enhance pollinator habitat on campus through increasing the abundance of native plants and reducing the use of pesticides. They offer service learning projects to enhance pollinator habitat. They offer courses or continuing education opportunities that incorporate pollinator conservation. They display signage about pollinator conservation, annually apply for renewal and report on the previous year's activities, pay an initial application fee and annual renewal fee. So you might be wondering why become an affiliate of Bee City or Bee Campus rather than just taking the steps to conserve pollinators on your own without maintaining an affiliation with this program. So first of all, Bee City and Bee Campus provide a focal point for community efforts. This may be activity and work your city is already doing, but by joining Bee City or Bee Campus, you become part of a national network where you can share ideas and provide and receive support. We also hold affiliates accountable to taking the steps to conserve pollinators. So for example, by ensuring that affiliates are creating or improving pollinator habitat in the city or on campus each year. Affiliates also receive support from the Xerces Society. So affiliates can call or email anytime to get advice from our team. And we have pollinator conservation experts scattered throughout the country who can help you with questions from your specific region. Affiliates also get access to resources from the Xerces Society. So we can help you find guidelines, fact sheets, webinars, and then we also have a monthly e-newsletter that you will be subscribed to as an affiliate. And then finally, the certification gives your city or campus recognition for the good work that you're doing. So you can advertise that you are an affiliate of this program and share that as you're promoting your city or campus. There are also a variety of other benefits of affiliation. One is that you ensure survival of vital animal species. So you help ensure that these species crucial to our planet's functioning ecosystems continue to exist. You build community and bring your community together around a positive shared cause. And you also connect with communities across the country that have made the same commitment. You also raise community awareness of how our food grows and improve local food production through expanded pollination in your region. You also support the growth of local businesses. So that includes native plant nurseries and pollinator-friendly landscaping companies. Finally, you can raise community awareness of the least toxic ways to tackle home and garden pest problems. And as part of that, you can mobilize your community to help remove non-native invasive plant species and make way for more of those locally native plant species. And then finally, you'll raise community awareness of the local environment's diversity of plant and pollinator species. So in order to apply, cities must form a committee first, then complete an online application, receive the approval of the highest elected official, and then have the city council adopt the resolution. And then the final step is to pay that application fee. And applicants do not need to have already achieved all of the commitments before applying to the program. This application is essentially a pledge to complete the commitments before the first renewal is due. So participation in the program requires that affiliates complete each commitment each year, but it's important to remember that this is really a long-term project. It's not a race. So the number of outreach events hosted, habitat areas planted, and signs displayed should fit with your committee and community's capacity and interests. And to be a successful long-term initiative of the city, the shape that the city's involvement takes should really be determined by your committee and by your community. And in order to apply, campuses must also form a committee. They then complete an online application. They receive the approval of the president or chancellor and then pay that application fee. And if you're interested in learning more about the application process, you're in luck because we're going to be hosting 2 upcoming webinars, one in October and one in November, focused on the application process. So the first one in October will be focused on the application process for Bee City, and the second one in November will focus on Bee Campus. And these will include current affiliates, so we'll have 4 affiliates who will present as part of each webinar, and they're going to share their experience starting out, how did they learn about these programs, how did they approach their local government or their campus about joining, and then all the way up to talking about completing the forms and also how they maintained a committee moving forward. So if you want to learn more, those webinars would be a great way to learn more and then ask questions of current affiliates. And to register for those webinars, just go to Xerces events page and you'll find those listed and you can go ahead and register. So it looks like our time's just about up, but if you're interested in continuing to learn more about Bee City and Bee Campus, or you'd like to apply, I encourage you to check out our website. There are quite a few other resources there, and that's at beecityusa.org. Xerces also has a variety of books with information about native pollinators, and you can find these on the Xerces website. These are really great resources to learn more about a lot of the topics we skimmed over today, about how do you plant pollinator-friendly habitat, how do you pick species, how do you create nesting sites, and that type of information. We also have a range of resources on our website that you can download for free. These include fact sheets, planting guides, habitat monitoring guides, and that type of information. And then, as I've mentioned a few times, Xerces has a YouTube channel where you can, where we post videos and also record and post our webinars. So if you want to share this webinar with someone, it will be available there, and you can also explore the wide range of webinars that have been presented already and are available on that channel. And then you can also connect with us on social media, so either Bee City or Xerces. We're at Bee City USA or at Xerces Society on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Finally, I'd like to thank our donors and members who make the work we do possible. So if you don't know already, Xerces is a member-based organization, and we are incredibly thankful for our members and our donors who support what we do as a nonprofit. It wouldn't be possible without their help. And with that, thank you for taking the time out of your day to learn about Bee City and Bee Campus.
Well, thank you so much, Molly, for your time and for this great presentation. And thank you all for your time and for joining us. We really appreciate it.